What's up, my dudes? Welcome to today's video. This is a piece I worked on a couple days ago that I really ended up enjoying. It's actually an OC of mine that I made up during Inktober. I believe it was day 23 or 24, whenever the juicy prompt was there. It was a cute little fairy taking a bite out of a juicy apple, and I'll insert that pic right here. This is the first time I have redrawn her, and I've made some advancements on her design, but I drew her again, and you'll see that in another video soon. And I'm still playing around with her style, but we'll get there. Her name is Clelia, and she's the household fairy that fails at maintaining the household. And I have all these plans for her, including a lover and a story and whatnot, but that's not what this video is about. Today's video is actually going to focus on a topic that really hit me hard throughout the entire creation of this piece, which is pushing through the panic. Because as you all know, as if I don't say it often enough, I'm still a beginner artist. I'm still very much in the process of learning even the most basic things like anatomy, color choices, and lighting, all that fun technical stuff. So panic hits me a lot during my pieces. For anyone who's watched my previous videos, you would know that my style is very much line art based. You see it more on my Instagram. I typically go in with one rough sketch, another cleaner sketch, and then do a very clean and connected medium thickness line art, followed by base color, shading, etc., etc. And that's not what I did in this video. This isn't the first time I've dived into a painting without using line art. I'll see if I can find that piece, or actually my first two videos that I ever posted on this channel. I think it was a Cinderella and an Animal Crossing mare redraw. They were both drawn with no line art, and that was one of the very first times I ever tried that method, which I really shouldn't have publicized now that I look back on it, because every time I see that Animal Crossing mare piece, I just, ugh. Maybe I'll redraw that too. It'll probably end up in a whole chain of redraws of the same thing. But anyways, so all that to say is that I rely heavily on line art to help my coloring process. It makes everything a whole lot easier, and in this piece I was tackling two things I was uncomfortable with. So one was not having a line art, and two was drawing a background. Both of these things aren't overly complicated, but they're a challenge to me as an artist who hasn't really delved much into either of these techniques. And initially I was really excited to start this piece. I've been wanting to redraw Clelia for quite a long time. I have a lot of OCs that I just can't get out of my head because they never end up the way I want them to look. But this time I was confident I would get something I liked, and I did. But before that I had these flared moments of panic, like crap, I'm messing everything up. Because the thing for me as I color without the line art is that I have the sketch there to guide me, and I dim down the opacity on that to anything between 20 and 30% so that I don't rely on it. But this is easier said than done when you don't have a line art to give it a structure. So I would block in my colors and be like, yeah, that looks good, but then I would hide my sketch layer and just begin to doubt myself, like, oh no, everything looks plain and flat, you can't tell whether the hand is there or if that's an elbow, like where are the feet, like everything was like, you know, and it's so difficult also to get the right shape for something, like the hand and the skirt. I really struggled with getting the right blocks of color in for the shapes of fingers, and that could stand independent from the initial sketch. And every time I would turn off that sketch layer, I would panic because nothing looked good. And it was about halfway through this painting when I began adding the shadows to everything that I realized I was really beginning to panic and struggle with this piece. Part of it due to the fact that I didn't separate my layers enough. I clumped all my layers together and created a clipping mask for shading over this entire piece. And then I realized without the line art to guide me, it was really difficult to see where I wanted to shade something and separate my colors. And that's something that really contributed to the panic and overall anguish I poured into this piece. But I learned from that, especially when I did a second piece of Clelia. I really learned how to separate my layers. So while it's annoying sometimes to have 1,000 layers, going and creating individual clipping masks after with those layers is really a lot easier and a lot more practical. In the moment, I was in too deep to go back and separate those layers, though, which really made it awful, too, when I realized the color of the hair was too cool and was really clashing with the colors. I had chosen to try and layer different colors over it, and those were really warm because I wanted the overall piece to be warm, and the hair color was just very much more it was more green brown than orange brown. And it really made it difficult because I kept on shoes. It was just awful. It was a mess, guys. It was a hot mess. I was so frustrated. But I was so determined. But at the same time, I was so panicked because that piece I had started out loving and had started to take was becoming like this piece I didn't ever want to finish. I had started this piece to take a break from another piece that I was working on that was causing me grief, and now this project that was supposed to be relaxed and easy was turning into a whole different mess, and that was really frustrating, and that's probably what contributed to the panic. Was like, this piece was supposed to be easy and it was turning out so much harder. But you'll see, though, that I have a full video, and I did complete this piece, and that's partly due to dumb, stubborn determination, but also due to the steps I took throughout this piece to ensure my sanity. And maybe I'm being dramatic, but I was really getting frustrated with this no line art bullshit. So this video is about 10 minutes long, but it maybe took me about 5 hours total to complete because I kept pausing, getting up, taking breaks, reevaluating myself, sending whips to my artist friends and asking them to critique it and telling me if it looked like messy or clumpy or something. And had I not taken those breaks, I would not have been able to push through the panic. And I think it's really important as artists to recognize when we're spiraling downwards with a piece and when it's okay to push through the panic and when we need to step back. And it's also really important to recognize that stepping back is not giving into the panic, but it's just another method of pushing through the panic. Every artist faces a struggle in their art eventually, especially when you're constantly creating and pushing out piece after piece. There's bound to be a moment when you try to push out of that comfort zone and just try to push yourself to do one more piece, and then you realize you may have bitten off more than you can chew, and you kind of feel that burnout settling in. And that's when like the real panic sets in, especially if you have a deadline or something. I thankfully did not have a deadline for this. It was just a piece I did for fun while I was on break from school. But when you have all these pressures on you to complete a piece, and you can kind of feel that panic when like everything you're trying is not working out and anything new that you're trying is just kind of looking messy and uncoordinated, and it's just very important to remember that you have to push through that panic. And it doesn't mean that you have to like go horns down and push through it like that. That pushing through that panic can just mean closing your file and taking an hour to read a book or watch a TV show, or a day or even a week to just kind of focus on either like smaller projects or just not drawing at all, or maybe you want to write a story or something. Pushing through that panic can come in many different ways. But as long as you come back and you realize that you took a break to de-stress and de-wind, as long as you realize that you can come back and you can be the type of artist to finish your piece, that's important. That's just pushing through the panic. And as long as you come back and finish that piece, no matter how long it took you, no matter how panicked or how many breaks you had to take, that's a victory in itself. It's very important, at least from my experience and from my view, to finish the pieces you start, or at least finish pieces in general. It doesn't have to be like every single sketch you do has to be turned into a completed piece, but it's very important to finish a piece because the experience you gain from finishing pieces is experience gained overall. Whether or not you like the finished piece is still a practice that you can take with you into a future piece and learn from. So if you just did a sketch, your sketches are always going to be amazing, but then if you don't try and color it or refine it, you'll never get better at coloring or refining it. And boy, did I learn a lot from this piece. I will definitely be taking my experiences from this no line art piece into another piece of Clelia that will hopefully be posted next week. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll already see that I caved and shared it with everyone because I am so in love with this piece. So I'll hopefully be posting the video of that improvement next week. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I post new videos every Thursday on my channel talking about art while drawing what I love. Make sure to hit that subscribe button below if you want to see more, and give it a thumbs up if you liked what you saw today. And I'll see you all next week when the surf's up. Bye!